afternoon, and welcome to Beyond the Headlines. I'm DJ Moises. Today, we're not just revisiting a date in history, we are revisiting a question. What does EDSA mean to a generation that did not live through it? For many young Filipinos today, it is something they inherited, not something they experienced. This afternoon, we sit down with two young voices, Hans Balila and Maui Cruz from Generation Z. Because history is not only written by those who fought in it, it is also interpreted by those who inherit it. So, hi, Hans and Maui, welcome back to the show.
Hi, sir. Good morning.
You
Hi.
seem to be more demure this time.
For
That's
now.
it for now. That's
For
it for
now.
now.
That is for now.
Maybe you'd like to greet your friends.
Hi, particularly my parents.
Hello to my mom, my siblings, my
Yeah.
friends. Yan lang.
Plural,
And
no friends.
Yeah, my friends.
Sige, so when you hear EDSA, no, what comes into your mind? Is it a street? Is it a name of a person? Or is it a part of the Philippines' history?
I would say it's more of like the part of the Philippine history for me. I always associate it with the EDSA revolution and the the efforts of the Filipino people to uprising against a government that was oppressive and authoritarian. How about you, Maui?
Ako rin, it reminds. Why are you laughing? It reminds me of history as well. I feel like EDSA was one of my first few mobs as an activist, so it will always hold a very special meaning for me. So ayun.
So how would you explain it, no, to people your age, no? Because this is like 1986. Maybe I think your parents were also still
1986.
young at that
Yeah.
time. No? Sige. So how would you explain this at least to people your age today?
Ikaw, Hans, how
I
would you
think a majority of the people who were involved in the EDSA revolution were the youth. It was the political participation that enabled the toppling down of a dictator. And I think if I were to talk about the EDSA revolution to people of my age, I would say that it's one of the proof that with collective effort and with the youth's ambition, we can achieve things, even achieving a proper and clean government.
That's true. And what was it like to live as a student back then during the EDSA revolution, and even before that, during martial law? This is something that we often talk about, especially in STAND, in the Student Alliance for Nationalism and Democracy. We talk about how during EDSA, before that,
First
the
quarter
three,
storm.
yeah, the first quarter storm, the three conduits of student political participation were banned. This is the student publications, our student organizations, and our student councils. But it is the youth primarily that really fought collectively to bring back our councils, our student pubs, and our student orgs. And it is something that we must continuously continue to fight for hanggang ngayon. And I feel like a lot of people nowadays, a lot of the youth, they don't really realize that a lot of the things that we experienced back then, it's still happening right now.
That's true.
And there's still a reason to continue fighting. There's still a reason to continue commemorating EDSA. It shouldn't be just a holiday. It's not just something that we mark on our calendars, but it's continuously remembered and fought for.
So some people believe, no, some Filipinos believe that democracy was restored in 1986. No, in your view, has democracy been protected since then?
To some extent, I would say yes, because of that effort, we basically bolstered the political participation of the youth, as mentioned by Maui, because of the Filipino people's struggle against the dictator. We were able to reinstitutionalize student councils, publications, and other organizations for that matter, and even political participation by the Filipino people in general as a whole. Were basically enabled in light of the removal of Marcos from his presidency and, of course, the removal also of the martial law. But of course, still there are some struggles when it comes to our current status of democracy, and that's why I would personally support Maui's statement that the EDSA revolution is not, it wasn't just a one-time thing. In fact, we still face
Tama,
the same struggles nowadays, and therefore must struggle to the same extent as past youth did.
tama, tama.
And then maybe Maui can comment on this one because not everybody also consider silence as just silence. No, some people will consider silence as neutral, but some people would also read silence as a statement already. So, what are your thoughts about silence?
I feel like it depends on the context of the situation, no? Syempre, silence for me, kasi as someone who has a platform, even Hans, as someone who has a platform, when we're silent about things, syempre, it also makes a statement. It also,
That it's not important.
yeah, na hindi siya important. It's not kanang relevant enough to talk about. But there are people naman, especially sa youth na they don't know well enough about the issue, and that's why they're silent. Because so many people they don't talk about things that they're uncomfortable with sharing in public because it might lead to more backlash. It might lead to so much more conversations, but that they're not ready to handle. And so I think that that's why it's so important to continue to kanang make sure that everyone is aware of what's going on politically, socially. It's so important for people like people who have a platform to continue to speak up on these issues, to continue to, especially right now, daghan kayong issues sa Cebu, daghan kayong issues sa Philippines, and as people with platforms, it is also our responsibility to be able to share these para inform pud ang mga tao so that they too can be inspired to also kanang
Take
make
part.
make noise,
do
take
something.
part, do something about it. Yeah.
So speaking of platform and speaking of speaking up, so we are going to play a game, no? So what we have you are hearts, and if I am to explain, it's because hearts represent love of country.
Over country, okay.
And so if the viewers would see, so the hearts actually have two sides. So one side, letter A, and the other side is letter B. And what we will be doing is I would be reading statements here, and then Hans and Maui will actually tell us what are their thoughts, no, whether they favor statement A or statement B. So let's start with something easy. A, reply instantly, or B, mentally reply and forget.
Sorry, inside joke.
Sige, Sige, tell us about reply instantly. Why do you prefer that?
Actually, Gwen is also laughing in the background. But I'm someone who I try to respond as soon as I can. I feel like my friends are going to say, nah, that's not true. But when I can, I try to respond. You guys have to
Why
believe
do,
me.
why do I sense like you're trying to convince me?
No, I'm trying to no. Okay. I think it's very important to respond to the people around you. So let's preface it with that.
That's
And
true.
I try my best to be able to respond immediately. Pero kapag hindi makakaya, edi
Did you forget that you didn't respond to Gwen and I for like 5
Did
hours
I?
during the weekend?
Kailan? OMG.
Oh, sige.
Wait.
Sige, ano na lang. So, which one is more common? Ang hindi makakaya or ang makakaya?
Hin-
To respond.
Okay, can I just say na
Sige.
I'm not always on my phone.
Okay, sige.
Ayun. Kasi marami akong ganap sa buhay. Ayun. But when it comes to the people that I really, really value and care about, ayun, I try to respond as soon as possible.
So, for those that Maui actually care about, now you know. Okay, now Hans, let's move to you. Why do you delay and eventually forget? No.
Ayun.
Honestly, when I was still young,
Yeah.
I was still a teenager. I used to like respond instantaneously to people, like even like late at nights. But I reached a point in life where sometimes it takes a lot of me to respond to people. Now, just because I'm free, that doesn't necessarily mean that I am available. So sometimes I try to respond a little bit later when I feel like I'm emotionally ready to respond or like I'm in the
Wow.
zone to respond to people. But sometimes I also forget. That's why I really, really profusely apologize to people sometimes when I just notice, oh, it's been days since I've responded to you. I am so sorry.
Do
Mm.
you also, is this an alibi or is this a reality when people would say that,
Mhm.
oh, I was already responding, but I forgot to send it?
I haven't experienced that before because I feel like if I'm already writing a response, then I should respond now right after that.
Okay.
I've experienced it before because there are times I'm in meetings or I'm doing something for
Mm.
Mhm.
council or or something, and then I see the notif, and then I can't message right away.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
I think of a response, and then I sometimes it just
Forget.
doesn't really
Okay.
happen. Yeah.
Which happens to you? Just kidding. Not me.
Hindi
Just
naman
kidding.
siguro.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Hmm.
Sige, now,
Hmm.
sige. Now let's move into something related to EDSA. No, I'm
Ayun.
hopeful. Letter A, I'm hopeful about the Philippines. Or B, I am worried about the Philippines. Hopeful. Wow. I'm liking it. So let's start with you, Hans. Why are you hopeful about the Philippines?
I think it really is in the youth spirit to be optimistic about things because the thing about the future is, as you've mentioned, like it's also something that we might inherit, and when it comes to that, I believe we really need the youth to be visionaries, to envision a future that they want to have, and part of that comes with being optimistic about the future, and of course, being optimistic about things, believing that things will be better for you, that you will be getting a better future, that motivates you to also do better by extension. And that's when I really don't like losing hope for the nation because, as someone who fought for the nation for the past few years as a student activist, as a youth leader, it really comes with it. Like, I mean, the campaigns that you do, it comes with it an ambition in which everyone's interests are upheld. So, therefore, you need to be optimistic about things to fight for things in the first place.
Tama. That's true. Siguro bilang isang aktivista, hindi naman kami kumikilos kung wala kaming pag-asa para sa bayan. Para sa
Part
bayan.
of it.
Hindi kami kikilos if we do not have hope or if we're not optimistic in the Filipino people, hindi lang youth. Kasi syempre, it's not just the youth that can enact social change, but we have to link arms with the rest of the sectors of society. And there's so much potential in this country and the people. And sa lahat ng tao, it is the Filipinos who are deserving talaga of kanang a bright future ahead.
That's
So,
true.
ayun.
And speaking of issues, let's see, no, kanang what type of reaction do you normally give? Letter A,
Mm.
confront immediately, or letter B, overthink for 3 days.
Alright. Mm.
Oh, you also, both of you, uh, are the type of young leaders who confront the issues immediately. So tell us more, Maui.
Hindi naman siguro na sobrang immediately. I think na we should give ourselves time to really assess the situation. Depende siya sa sitwasyon. I think na I like to give myself time to think and to really see if this is worth my time or not. If what I'm feeling is valid, kung kamusta yung situation, and if I've thought if it through, doon ako mag-confront sa problem. I think ayun, I feel like a lot of people do this as well. So, hindi naman siya uncommon. Yan lang yung ginagawa ko because I don't like it. I don't like dwelling on things as much as possible. I don't like giving myself room to overthink. So, if my problema, I'd much rather kanang, what's it called? Why are you laughing?
Why
He
am I
knows this.
feeling no? Why am I feeling that this is more of a personal hugot? No, I'm
Hindi
just
naman.
kidding.
Oh my
No, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
God!
Continue, continue,
No,
continue.
I'm thinking about it like sa aking mga friends,
Mhm.
sa orgs. If may problema, ayun, sasabihin ko agad. Like, I'm not gonna wait for things to settle because I feel like if you wait,
If you linger.
yeah, if you linger, ayun, it harbors a lot of
Resentment.
resentment, subjectivisms, and I don't like carrying subjectivism.
And before you know it, the issue is already very big.
Yeah. Like, para sa akin, like, this could have been an email. So, yeah. Yeah. Ayun. So, talk it out lang. It's just one conversation.
And why were you laughing, Hans?
Voila, I was just laughing at the part where you said that you don't want to be anxious about things.
Oh, bakit naman? Ay, kasi very, like, grabe talaga yung anxiety ko. Like, I have a lot of anxiety. I think it's built up talaga from everything that I've experienced in the past. So,
And instead of bottling them up,
yeah, I cannot bottle them up
You want to
talaga.
resolve them.
Yeah, I want to resolve them right away. Kasi hindi makakaya ng anxiety ko eh. Like, it eats me up. So, ayun. And Hans knows this because there's so many times na I called him. Yeah.
to react immediately, no?
Oh,
You called him.
vent.
to vent, whether it be through counsel or most of the time
Personal.
counsel.
Sige. This one, letter A, no, because both of them are heroes, no, and well admired also by Filipinos. But I need you to pick just one.
Okay.
Letter A, Jose Rizal. Letter B, Andres
I know
Bonifacio.
who you're gonna pick.
Very good. I like that you have two different answers. So let's go with Jose Rizal first.
I think I resonate with Rizal more closely because I know a lot of people subject him to debate and like all he did was write things and that for them it did not make tangible impact though. But as someone who wrote a lot of statements, a lot of speeches, a lot of flyers throughout my student governance in University of St. Carlos and being a student activist in general, words have a lot of impact on people. It elicits emotions, emotional reactions to people, and by extension, it allows them to empathize more closely with the constituents that we represent. And that's why I feel like I would rightfully assert that Rizal is still a hero and someone that I resonate more closely as well because the work that he did, I think it's also one of the things that I did a lot when I was in college. I wrote a lot of things that persuaded the masses towards a particular cause to represent the interests of the students. And I would agree that he made as much of an impact as Andres did. Although I still agree that Andres is also a hero. It's just that I feel like Jose Rizal was also influential in his own means.
Yeah, so Rizal was really more about reforms, more about communication, more about education, about equality, no, equal treatment, rather than revolution, which is usually associated with Andres Bonifacio. So tell us about Andres Bonifacio.
Tell us about
No, no, no,
kilala mo. Close kami.
No, but why do you prefer Andres
Alam
Bonifacio?
mo, mutuals kami on
Mutuals.
Instagram.
Mutuals.
Ano,
This is very genuine. No? They're mutuals in Instagram, in IG. Sige.
agree ako sa mga sinabi ni Hans. Actually, when he wrote yung mga flyers, I was there helping rin. So, syempre, gets ko yung sentiments ni Hans. Pinili ko si Jose Rizal.
Andres
Pinili ko
Bonifacio.
si Andres Bonifacio. Kasi I feel like growing up reading about the Filipino Revolution, I grew up really idolizing. Close friend. I grew up really admiring bravery to that extent. I feel like it takes a lot of guts to be willing to die for the Filipinos. And I think na that's something that we should also,
Be passionate
Embody.
about.
embody. Ayun. I think na, ayun, yun lang siguro yung masasabi ko.
So my next question actually is related to that because Ninoy Aquino said this statement. No? Letter A, Filipinos are worth dying for. Or letter B, Filipinos are worth living for.
Okay.
Oh, sige, let's start with living for.
Living for, I think it takes a lot, siguro, when you do political work. I'm speaking as an activist. It's not easy, especially since hindi naman ako full-time na activist. I'm a student, but it takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of determination. It takes a lot of courage, strength, to do or to really fight for the Filipino people. And gets naman na to some extent, like there's a huge, like symbolic kaayo to be able to die, but to want to consistently and continuously live, working for the Filipino. I think that's something na it's worth admiring talaga.
Actually, we had this conversation, diba na?
Oh,
In the youth sector, mental illnesses are very common. Like some people are very suicidal, and we
Ayun.
thought that there was something so beautiful about being suicidal while still fighting for a life that you want. Sorry, trigger warning.
Trigger warning.
Trigger warning.
Ayun. Ako,
Like the irony of it.
yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I didn't know if it was okay to talk about, but
Sorry.
yeah. Ayun, I as someone who was diagnosed before, um I think na personally lang,
You would advocate for those who would fight
and
to live.
this is getting personal, but it was the movement that really inspired me to keep going. And I don't think na I would be where I am right now. I don't think na I'd be doing this interview right now, if it weren't for
the strength to live.
yes, and my love for the movement. Ayun, it gives you the will talaga to fight.
Sige, now speaking of mental health, because this
Ala.
is also related to this one,
Apa.
are you the type letter A, small tight circle, or letter B, many acquaintances? Small tight circle, letter A, or B, many acquaintances?
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Really?
Really? Sige, let's start with
Okay.
many acquaintances.
I think I'm just forced to pick this choice because I have a lot of friend groups. Like, I have a different friend group for my program in psychology. I have a different program for my friends in the council. I have a different friend group, a different group of friends for my work in activism. And just to give you context of just how big my friend groups are, for example, in my program in psychology, my friend group is 14 people. Like, it's half of a classroom.
Okay.
And I think part of the reason why I have a lot of friend groups is because different friend groups represent different parts of me. Like when it comes to my barkada and psychology, it's more of the typical leisure lang, like being teenagers and then when it comes to my friends and activism, it's mostly about politics or having ambitions in our life to better the lives of other people and fighting for a future that we deserve. And of course, when it comes to council work, it's mostly people who share the same ambitions for the Caroline community. And that's just some of the examples, but I guess that's one of the reasons why some people have a lot of acquaintances. Basically, different people represent different parts of themselves and they try to basically show different versions of themselves to different people.
And let's talk about tight circle.
I'm the type of person, I don't really open up to a lot of people. I think na same kami ni Hans in a sense that I feel like I also have different groups for different activities I'm doing. I have different friend groups. I think I have a lot of acquaintances as well, but I don't think na when it comes to personal matters, kasi I don't really share with other people, and I prefer keeping things like really, really close, like with, I think, 2, 3, 4, 5 people max. So ayun, that's just I like privacy.
Now let's go back to the Philippines. Sounds like a
Di mo
quiz
natagi
show,
ka.
no? Okay. Letter A. A nation is defended by its heroes. Or letter B. A nation is strengthened by its people. Sige. Strengthened by its people. Because both of you have the same answer, but I'll
Okay.
ask Hans to elaborate on this.
Oh, in our political work, we really don't subscribe to messianism.
True.
And messianism is basically just putting all of your trust and belief
In
with
one person.
or in one person, like making the masses believe that it's this one person who's going to resolve everything. In fact, when we run for positions, we never tell them, "Now I'm gonna solve everything." We tell them we're gonna solve everything,
Yes.
because it is only through collective action, collective
True.
power that we can achieve things. And EDSA is a proof of that. If it
True.
weren't for the united effort of the church, the different sectors of society, we would not be able to topple down a dictator who weaponized the government's resources against its people. And that's why I believe now there is power in collective action.
And now I would like you to elaborate more on this, but let's see if you still have the same answer. No, it's something to do with how we speak up on things that matter, like our advocacy, or the causes that we believed in. Letter A, posting is a participation. Letter B, showing up is a participation. So this is like online or virtual or physical presence.
I feel like, mm,
Okay. Showing up matters more than just posting on social media.
I feel like both of them matter, pero at the end of the day, ayun, we need people to show up because that's how
Like physically
campaigns
show
are
up.
won. That's how campaigns are won. Um, like for example, right now, so many universities across the nation, so many universities in Cebu are currently undergoing a tuition and other fees increase. Private institutions, in USC in particular, that's something that we kanang are strongly against. We are kanang for livable wages for our professors. Syempre, we've already contacted our faculty union. We've already had arranged meetings with them. Pero at the end of the day, yung tuition and other fees increase, it does not benefit anyone else but the institutions. And especially right now, in the middle of so many calamities, bumabangon lang ang Cebu, gikan sa earthquakes, gikan sa kanang Typhoon Tino, and so many students, because of that, so many students have had to drop out. So many students have had to work multiple jobs in order to stay afloat, in order to stay in school. And ngayon, yung mga schools natin, they're increasing the tuition even more. And if you think about it, every student is deserving of quality and accessible na education. And ayun, that's one example of a campaign that's recently, like, ongoing siya ngayon, not just in USC but also in CIT. It's also in Southwest. And the only way for us to win these campaigns is for the students to be able to show up. Yes, I think that it is so important to be able to speak up about it online, but we have to go beyond that. There comes a point na we need to really, really extend efforts, Jude, into these campaigns. Otherwise, our efforts will be futile. Ayun.
Fallen echo chambers.
Ayun, magiging echo chamber na lang sila. So, we're encouraging students to sign petitions. We're encouraging students to
Organizations.
join mobilizations, to even answer yung surveys that their councils are kanang releasing regarding TOEFI. That's a good way to join in these campaigns. And it also, same siya sa spirit ng EDSA, na the students really fought during their campaigns. Just because EDSA happened years ago does not mean that we're not facing the same realities. Ayun.
But actually, I must admit that that's a surprise answer to me.
Yeah,
Because-
diba? Naman they can raise the TOEFI na.
No, not that. Not
Yun.
the raising of the fee, but more of the context of virtual / online and physical presence, because I can see already the movements, no, in terms of from the physical world to the virtual world. But there are still issues after all that matters to everyone, especially to the young generation, that you would still prefer to do face to
show
face rather than just posting online. Sige, kani, let's go back to you, Nasad. Sige. Letter A, I can survive without my phone. Letter B, if it dies, I die.
I think,
I
okay.
can, letter A, I can survive without my phone. Letter B, if it dies, I die. That's also another
Really?
surprise to me. Sige, talk about now. This is your... yeah.
Okay, wait. Si Hans na lang kasi parang ready na ready siya.
No.
Are you
Sige,
sure you
no.
can survive without your
No.
phone?
Ikaw.
Sige. Pero that's a pleasant surprise.
A is like, I can survive without my
Yes.
phone. Yeah. Why
Sige
you,
daw. Sige, tell us more, because I think this is educational also for the Gen Ys, Gen X, and baby boomers who are watching.
May laptop rin ako, guys.
Sige.
Akala nyo, video, we find ways. I'm kidding. No, but like, I feel like, right now, marami kasing ganap sa buhay. I feel like there's so much more to life than just like being on
The phone,
screen,
on your
yeah,
phone,
on
no?
your phone
Right.
all the time. Yeah, I swear to God. I keep this charged at actually no, 15% ako ngayon. I try to keep it charged at all times for emergency purposes. Pero ayun, there's more to life than being glued onto one's phone. But I think that it's also very important to be able to adapt to modernization ngayon. Pero ayun, I think personal lang siya na parati akong busy, so
Yeah.
hindi ako nakakapag-phone. If my meeting's on my phone, then dun. Pero,
Now, sige, because no, but this is refreshingly new, no, for non-Gen Z like me, no. So, sige, if there is something that you would tell the other Gen Zs, kay, diba, it's usually the older generation would say, "Oh my goodness, you're always on your phone," diba, and the way it's communicated can sometimes have a negative effect instead of positive. So now, from a Gen Z to another fellow Gen Z, how would you advocate into not being too consumed? Not allowing the phone to actually rule the day's schedule.
Honestly, as someone who used to be on his phone a lot, I think one of the things that actually cut me away from my phone is finding things to be productive about.
True.
Like finding hobbies to do. Like,
True.
in my case, ever since I had work and I joined organizations, I've been reducing my screen time and spending my time more on interacting with people physically. And honestly, one thing that I noticed as to why our generation is more inclined to using our phone is because entertainment is so commercialized.
Tama.
Like, it's so hard for us to find third spaces. Sa una, also pagka mga adto plaza para mga laag with a barkada and stuff. But
Or
now,
watch movies in a
yes,
movie house.
and barato pa siya sa una. And karon among third spaces, mahal na kayo. Like, our third spaces, our laags, they always have to involve going to a mall and buying food that are overpriced. So now we're left with interacting on our phones na libre and mas affordable compared to face-to-face interactions.
Good point. No, actually, I'm glad that we also touched that topic because you have provided another context, no, why some people in your generation are always in their phone.
their
No? And,
phones.
and you've raised an important question that it's because at the end of the day, it may even be more cost effective for them to be just on their phone
Unfortunately.
Ayun.
rather than go out and buy
Tama.
coffee or go out
Mga
and
traffic
watch a
pa dyan ka on the
movie.
way.
That's an added perspective also on how Gen Ys and Gen X and baby boomers react, no, with Gen Z's perceived preference on their phones. No?
Phones.
Sige, now let's go back. See, this is still social media related.
Okay.
Letter A, social media empowers my generation, or letter B, social media pressures my generation. Letter A, empowers my generation. Letter B, pressures my generation. Let's start with the pressure.
I think that also, okay, let's start by saying empowering rin naman yung social media. I worked in PR naman, especially sa council. So very empowering siya. But if we're talking about mga personal accounts, I feel like social media has become a space where our profiles online are very heavily curated. I feel like a lot of what we see on social media nowadays, sometimes it doesn't really reflect everyday life. And people don't post everyday life because that's not what other people want to see. So nakaka-pressure siya. Pero it is also empowering because it allows for more communication. It allows for information dissemination. In fact, so many of the campaigns we have going on, our campaigns on TOEFI, our campaigns against kanang yung recent corruption issues, they would never have gone as far as it did if it weren't for social media, if it weren't for apps like Facebook, TikTok, even Instagram. Pero ayun, all in moderation, and
true.
that is why I think ayun, that's why sometimes we need to touch grass.
Go
Sometimes
outside.
we need to go outside and remember na life is not just social media, although it is a very, very big aspect of life.
Actually, this conversation is really refreshing for me, because
Wow.
as you may have heard that a lot of generations have that perception,
Ayun.
no, that Gen Z are always on their phone or Gen Z are always in social media, but these are also food for thought, no, that would allow us to see the different side of Gen Z. So you
That's
tell
true.
us more about this.
In my case, I agree with Maui that to some extent it can be pressuring.
Yes.
But I think at the end of the day, it depends on the type of media that you consume. And it depends
Tama.
on the people that you surround yourselves with. Because on a personal aspect, I really like it when I get to see versions of people that they put out there to celebrate wins in their life, no matter how small or big. I think there's something so beautiful about people sharing their personal milestones and victories to you, and like them letting you know that they've actually improved in life or have had something better in life, and that the fact that they want to celebrate it with you in social media. And on the political aspect, I think it is very empowering in the part where people often share their stories when it comes to political
Ayun.
issues,
I
to
agree.
share why they fight for certain things, why
Tama.
they resist oppression, why they are against a certain thing. Like these type of contents, they expose lived realities. They humanize issues beyond just numbers. Because I think sometimes in social media, rather in the news or any type of information dissemination systems, we sometimes reduce issues to just numbers. But when you get to interact with people and know about their lives beyond the numbers, it humanizes them to you. It reminds you why these people are also human and why they want to fight for better things. And by extension, that empowers me.
And if I captured it correctly, what you're advocating, it depends on the information
That you consume.
Yes.
that we consume.
Yes.
Agree.
Because if we spend more time with it and then it's educational, then yes, you end up becoming better. You know more, you become more. But if you don't consume educational stuff, then yes, that's
It gets
when it
detrimental.
becomes pressure. No? Okay, especially that I know a lot of people are supposed to be aware of this, nakato, no, in the space of kanang the dangers of comparison. What we just see are snapshots, no?
Tama.
That's true.
And then there's the tendency to compare a snapshot with our whole life story,
And
which will never be equitable,
Comparison is the thief of joy.
not just plunder. Not just kidding. Okay, sige. Sige, now let's go. Kadi, this one are both correct, but just pick which one is better for you, no?
Okay.
Passion builds success, letter A. Letter B, discipline builds success. Let's talk about passion.
Um, who did? Am I passion?
Ikaw
Yes.
Okay, passion. Okay,
Ah.
sorry. Sakto, sakto.
Sige.
Okay, so at least in my case, I've built my recent successes out of passion. They weren't exactly things that I had to discipline myself for because I always felt like I was born to do it. I
Wow.
never.
Si main character.
No, it's not. It's not like to. It's not like to toot my own horn. It's not like to toot my own horn. It's just that I felt like I always had it in me to be in the positions where I was and I'm in right now. It wasn't something that I had to compel myself to be in. And I guess that's why I would say that it builds success because, like, passion builds success because in my personal case, I never had to pressure myself to do things to be successful. I just feel like those are things that felt like they already came with the obligations that I was entrusted with.
So let's talk about discipline.
I feel like you do need to have a certain amount of passion in order to achieve success. But I think na you have to have a stronger sense of discipline. Personally, kay siguro a success in career, a lot of people like nowadays kay lisod man good it if especially if you're not coming from an affluent na family, if
That's true.
you're not very privileged, you need a lot of discipline para makaangat kayo sa buhay. It takes a lot of determination talaga, and if you don't have that sense of discipline, then it might be difficult for you moving forward because you need discipline in order to study, in order to persist, in order to kanang graduate, to finish college. Kaya not everyone has the same opportunities So it really is important to have a sense of discipline talaga. But ayun, like passion rin.
Passion statement. No?
Yes, tama. You know what? Yes.
Passion second.
Yes.
Okay.
But
Yes.
to some extent, I think there's an interplay, yeah, because I don't think
Oh.
you can have discipline on something if you don't have the passion
Passion.
for
Oo, tama,
Correct.
tama, tama.
Yeah.
Pero you can be passionate about something, but not
So both of
discipline.
them are
Diba?
actually good. It's just that where you think you can be
You can
your
leverage
best,
them
no?
Also, siguro sa mga campaigns, like a lot of us are very passionate about the campaigns, pero it takes a
If there's
lot
no
of
discipline.
discipline talaga to stick with them. Like, I'm so passionate about this kasi running campaigns are very difficult, like against like very anti-student policies.
There used to be times now we'd have
Oo.
meetings until 1 a.m.
1
And the
a.m.
meeting started at 8 a.m.
Oo. Yeah, maluya ka ba?
So
Like,
discipline is also essential in
too
campaigns.
essential,
No?
yes.
Even campaigns like New York Passion Week.
Yes. Oo, tama. Tamang-tama.
Sige, I'm down to my last Sige, statement here. Let's see if you have the same answer. A, anger. Okay. A, anger fuels change, or B, discipline fuels change. Let's see. Anger. A for anger. Sige, let's talk about anger.
I wouldn't really say that anger is an initial reaction. I feel like it's something that happens after a series of things that has made someone uncomfortable or feel disrespected or feel violated. And in the context of politics, the masses easily feel angered against things that they feel as if it causes injustice towards them. And this anger, this righteous indignation against injustices inflicted on them, it's what pushes people to pressure governments, to pressure authorities to do something about things that are affecting them. Because, for example, EDSA, I think EDSA is the best example when it comes to saying anger is what pushes change or success. Because if it weren't for the people's anger towards a system that has deprived them of living wages, deprived them of political participation, deprived them of avenues to express themselves, there wouldn't be a there wouldn't have been a process in which there would have been no toppling of a dictator. They wouldn't have removed Marcos from the helm of our country, and by extension, we wouldn't see the extent of democracy that we are enjoying still as of today. And on a more local scale, for example, when it came to the matter of corruption sa DPWH.
Tama.
If people didn't feel so mad seeing families behind the corruption schemes living luxurious lives while people suffer from floods, from traffic, and substandard government infrastructure, we wouldn't have exposed the deep-seated issue of corruption in our country, and our government officials probably would not have done something about it.
So you've already been saying tama, so I will not, but maybe I will ask you for this one. Maybe this is your turn. Letter A, I would run for public office someday. Or letter B, I'd rather stay outside and pressure those who do. Letter A, I'd run for public office someday. Letter B, I'd rather stay outside and pressure those who do. Let's talk to our future mayor.
Hindi naman siguro future mayor. Oy. No.
Congresswoman. Congresswoman.
No,
Senator.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. This is not to say na I will run. No. It's more of kung capable ka.
But are you?
If you're capable of it. I think na we'll cross the bridge when we get there. Right now, calling for kanang what's it called, pressuring those in power, important siya. But I think na if you're capable, it's also like stepping into office sa student government. If makakaya mo, then do it kasi you owe it to the people, you owe it to kanang ano, and if you really want to serve, then ayun, if alam mo na where you are, you're standing for what is right, edi
Go.
ayun, go, 'di ba? I think na that's
Yeah.
ano.
So we have somebody here who is
No,
open.
can I just
Open,
okay,
open.
B. No. B na lang, B na lang. B na lang. No, I'm just saying na hypothetically if hindi ako,
Ah.
pero like if it were someone else, kanang if makakaya mo, then
Do it.
run, do it.
Sige. B, because that's your original answer.
Yes. Um, in my case, I've always told them about this because a lot of people would always tell me, do you have plans to do local politics? I guess that's because of my stint in student governance. Now, they would project me into local governance as well. But I've always told them that as of the moment, I don't exactly have a perspective for it, mainly because of how exhausting student governance was for
Real, that's
me.
true.
It was very exhausting to me, and I'm pretty sure local governance is so much worse. And also partly because of the current status of our government. Now, like corruption is basically incentivized, and that's why. For the most part, I know it's very important that you involve yourself in the government because if nobody is going to change the government by being in the government, then who will? If it's
Diba?
Or
not you.
those
Diba?
who can
Yes.
don't, then how will the change also can happen?
Yes,
diba? Those
exactly.
who can,
Tama,
they don't.
exactly.
And then those who can't, they do.
Exactly.
Diba?
They just
Ayun,
perpetuate the same
ayun.
system. Like as of now, I don't have a perspective on running for local government, so that's why I'm at the footing right
Ako
now where
rin.
I would still prefer to pressure incumbents of the government.
Now, this is not actually something that's a choice between good or better,
Ayun.
no? But this one is something that's polarizing. So I'd like to hear your thoughts about this, no? So, letter A, schools should be neutral spaces. Or letter B, schools should actively
Obvious na.
should actively shape social values. Sige, tell me about schools shaping social values. Sige, okay.
Go on.
Well, but by my reaction, you can tell what's my stand.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you are my
Exactly.
guest, so be my guest.
I guess despite the current political
Okay.
situation
Yeah.
in my alma mater right now, University of San Carlos, it actually is very impressive knowing how during martial law, SVD priests sheltered student activists. And I guess one of those I think that's a testament of how like even priests themselves they recognize the importance of universities, strongholds of the academe to take a stand when it comes to political issues. Because at that point, unsa may gamit sa inyong School of Arts and Sciences, unsa may point sa inyong scholars of politics, if you don't use the platform that the university has to take a stance when it comes to political issues. And not to mention, universities are so influential. You have thousands of students under your leadership, and it is very important that you also try to make use of the education that you have with your instructors, with your professors, to further educate students when it comes to social realities. Because at the end of the day, I believe that we should not limit ourselves to textbooks. We should not limit ourselves within the four walls of our classrooms, but in fact, we should apply whatever we learn in our textbooks towards that to society. And that basically is the principle of USC, diba? Na like we share what we have, we seek to learn what we do not know, among many other principles that USC envisions.
Sige, so I will not ask you anymore to elaborate on it, but I would rather ask you this time also from the perspective no of how about for a particular issue, diba? If both of you would say that schools should no shape no the or influence the thinking no especially if it's perceived to be the correct one. But what if there are also students who don't share that and then the school is actually advocating for it? What would be your thoughts also of how that should be better managed? Okay, that's also a reality, di ba?
In what sense?
So, for example, the school is advocating for this particular political direction, but there may be students also studying in the school that do not share that. But if their teachers, their deans, their presidents are clearly not aligned to their thoughts. So, how will that? What's your suggestion to manage those instances?
Have discourse gyapon. Diba? I feel like at the end of the day, it is the responsibility of our universities, of our schools, to promote environments where the students themselves are not afraid of political participation. They're not afraid of speaking out, because the only way na we can be able to achieve um unities siguro, or yung hindi naman siguro yung
Middle
correct,
ground.
middle ground is through discourse, 'di ba?
No, I like it
Okay,
actually.
ayun.
I think that's the beauty of democracy.
Yeah.
Ayun,
Now, if it's
oo.
upheld, we are open to critical discourse and we consider different perspectives.
Tama.
So I think we covered this also offline on a
Mm.
personal note, no, rather than political. But yeah, as they say, no, the differences will always come because all of us
Tama.
are individuals to begin with. But it's communication or discourse, no,
Tama.
that will
That's true.
surface that
Tama.
conversation and come up with a better direction.
That's true.
Yung pangit siguro is if schools
Fixed.
actively repress their students to a point where students are no longer
Speaking up.
speaking
Speaking up.
out if they're scared to talk about these issues. Kay okay, if the school thinks this way and the students think that way, at least naaman
There's a
gyapon
There's a
conversation.
concern,
discourse.
yes.
We cannot stifle voices. Like it's 2016 2026 na.
That's like an ingredient for a dictatorship.
Yeah. We should not allow censorship to take place in our schools. We should not allow our schools to stifle this political dissent. It is the jobs of our universities to really foster the minds of our students. And how will they be able to do that if dili na ganahan nga musaba ang ato ang mga estudyante?
That's true.
Sige, now this is the last one, and we'll go back to the spirit of EDSA. Now, this one, both of these statements are true, but which one would you choose? EDSA was about courage, letter A, or letter B, EDSA was about unity.
Yes.
Consistent.
Courage. Courage.
Sige, let's talk about courage, no? Which is aligned to anger earlier, no? Instead of discipline. Let's go.
You wanna go?
Oh, yeah, sige.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it takes a lot of guts to stand up to a dictatorship that has weaponized the military and other government resources against its own people. And that's why when it comes to EDSA, I always look at it from a perspective where I look up so much to the people who actually mustered up the courage to stand up to such a government system. And I always make it as my reminder of the things that we are fighting for. Because to trace back the history of universities here in Cebu City, for example, our political party Stand USC, it used to be one of the underground organizations during martial law.
True.
Because student organizations, fraternities were prohibited back then. So
Yes,
the
true.
Carolinians made an underground organization.
Tama.
And from that underground organization, they made political participations and they brewed protests. And for that matter, I think it serves as a good reminder now when it comes to oppressive systems, you need to have the bravery to face it up front, or else you will not see anything change. Because ayun, like it really took so many deaths. I feel like it's such a disservice to the martyrs of EDSA for people in media. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed that, but there's this overwhelming sentiment by people na EDSA was a peaceful protest now, which I really don't
No,
agree
it's
because it
not.
took a lot of blood
No.
for
True.
people to conclude a dictatorship.
Tama.
And that's when it's very important to emphasize just how tumultuous that time was and how it took a lot of courage just to realize democracy in our nation.
So what you're saying is it took a lot of death prior to that, no?
Yes.
That
Yes.
brought people to have courage to be there, no?
Yes.
And to make themselves heard, no? And to fight for what
Yes.
they believed. Sige. Now, do we still have a lot of time pa ba? Okay, Murag, I'm
Yes.
really having time.
May time pa tayo.
Okay.
Just,
Oh my goodness, 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Sige, sige, sige.
Sorry, uppers.
No, but I'm enjoying this so much because what I have here supposedly are a few hypothetical statements just in
Okay.
case we are given the the chance to rewrite our history. So the first one, I wasn't born during this time, but this was a statement that was made by Manuel L. Quezon, you know, the first president of the Commonwealth of the Philippines, and and I'd like to hear your thoughts about this one. He said, "I would rather have a government run like hell by Filipinos than a government run like heaven by Americans." Or let's just change Americans to foreigners. No, so what are your thoughts about this one? Would you rather have a government run like hell by Filipinos or run like heaven by foreigners? Hell like Filipinos. Okay, let's talk about now. It's your turn, Maui.
Ayun, feel ko, kan, pahirap.
Imperialism.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, like, grabe kaayo, yapon ang imperialism. It still seeps through our country. And we can see it even right now in our education, in our healthcare, the way that our government is run, the way na kanang life is like here in the Philippines. Daghan kaayo. You can see little tidbits of imperialism everywhere. I feel like Hans can better explain
Okay.
ang ano.
I think when it comes to imperialism, it's even now like as what Maui mentioned, it's very notable just how there
Oh,
is like American in particular influence when it comes to the way we run
tama.
things. For example, when it comes to our senior high school curriculum, we always say
Tama.
that we implemented it to create students who are globally competitive. But in reality, that phrase, globally
True.
competitive, is just sugarcoating the fact that we want to create students who can be marketed towards the global market. And instead of these students working to better our nation, they're forced to travel to other countries to work for there. And the best example for this is our healthcare workers. Now,
Tama.
because they're not very compensated well here in our country, instead of them serving fellow Filipinos, they're forced to work abroad under different living conditions just because they're not compensated well, and because our education system is modeled such that we can easily trade skilled workers to other nations, then that happens. And another thing, Siguro, is when it comes to our academic calendars.
Yes.
For example, now the government decided to move our government calendar, or rather our school calendars, in accordance with the US's academic calendars. I think that's a big representation of how the government tends to make decisions that are not representative of the interests of our people, and it becomes harmful.
True.
Now, because our classes and very late people are subject to intense heat during summers. And I think those are just some of the examples of which foreign control of our government can make way for policies that are not representative of the concrete conditions of their constituents.
Hanggang academic curriculum rin.
Yes.
How kanang the science STEM courses are more prioritized, or they're given more weight because it's easier to get workers from STEM fields.
To export them
Ayun,
to
that's
other
why
countries.
healthcare, so on and so forth. And what happens when you prioritize STEM fields, STEM courses more than the social sciences? Ayun, it limits critical thinking, and
There's
it
no preservation of heritage.
and there is no discourse on very very important matters like EDSA. So ayun.
Sige, how I wish, and it looks like because in our first conversation we mentioned there's going to be a part 2, but the way things are going, there's going to be a part 3 because I actually skipped so many questions here. So,
Ayun.
but let's jump to this na lang, no,
Okay.
before we close, no. Beyond activism, what do you hope Filipinos should become? Dang, 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 deep question.
Thinking time.
Loading. Sige. No, beyond activism, because now you have already clearly advanced that there's an advantage, no, to speak up, to have courage, to have this healthy anger, no, demanding for change. But beyond that, what would you also want Filipinos to be?
I would say I would want Filipinos to have more belief in themselves.
Tama.
Because I
Oo.
believe it's such an overbearing sentiment for so many Filipinos now. They're so much more inferior to our neighboring countries,
Ayun.
which I do not think is true. Because I feel like, I mean, at least in our economic conditions, our Filipinos have to work so much harder than the rest of our neighboring
That's
countries
true.
just to be compensated so much lower than other countries. And the fact that Filipinos have to work twice as hard just to be able to get food on their table, that's a testament of just how capable Filipinos are. It's just that our government has made it seem as if we're worth the measly wages that we're compensated right now. Nah, because we don't believe so much in our skills, we accept minimum wages, we accept substandard government services, and poor transportation, among so many other things. I believe because we look down upon ourselves so much, it also translates into us thinking that we don't deserve better things.
And last, no, second to the last, I'm sorry, second to the last, kuha na lang yun. And this is for Maui, no? If there are parents who are watching and they also have Gen Z, as children or activists as children, what do you want them to understand why you do what you do?
Personally, it took a lot of time for my mom to accept, or not really accept, to be supportive of what I'm doing, of my activism. I can say that as a child, it took a lot of talking, a lot of explaining, a lot of
Persuasion.
arguing, persuasion. That so masasabi ko talaga na it takes a lot of mass working, it takes a lot of ceaseless and tireless persuasion to explain to our parents that um, activism, number one, hindi siya terrorism. Number two, kanang, it is born out of love. Recently, nahuman na ang Valentine's. This month is the month of Valentine's.
And
Sabi
that's why you
daw
have
nila,
hearts there.
yeah, exactly. One of
Love
my
of
favorite
country.
sayings is ano ba yun, ang pag-ibig ay
Pakikibaka.
pakikibaka. To love is to struggle.
I thought cow.
Nag-joke
continue.
siya, guys. Nag-joke siya.
Nag-joke
Okay,
siya.
okay, continue. Okay, pag-ibig
Ayun.
ay pagkikibaka.
Pakikibaka. And it's the month of love naman. And I think the strongest form of love is to struggle for a world, for our parents, for our families, for our loved ones, for a better society, for a better future for them. Yung ginagawa namin, at least ako personally, I don't do anything without thinking of my parents first, without thinking of my family, how it affects them. And ayun, lahat ng ginagawa ko para talaga sa pamilya ko. And it took them a lot of time to really understand
That's
it.
true.
But I'm glad na now they do. And now they support the movement and they support our fight for change, collective change. And I hope na for activists with parents who are not as
Receptive.
receptive as my mom, God bless her soul, is ceaseless and tireless persuasion talaga yan. It's not going to happen in a snap. It takes a lot of passion. It takes a lot of courage.
Discipline.
It takes a lot of discipline. Ayun. But you will get there kasi the more na they understand kung ano yung pinaglalaban natin, the more na they'll be able to support.
Yes.
And final question, and this is for both of you, and this is still going back to why we are having this conversation, the main topic, no, which is EDSA. If there's anything that one each, no, if there's anything that EDSA taught us, what should it be and why we should not forget it?
I would say one thing that we should learn from EDSA is not to just bear witness to history, but also take part in it. Because as people who are also stakeholders of whatever political changes happen in our country, we bear the responsibility of making sure that they represent our interests. And part of that is also knowing what things are happening and doing something about it. It's not enough that we just sit and stare at things unfolding in front of us. We also must have the sense of accountability and the sense of duty to make sure that anything that happens under our watch is still well within the rights that we have as citizens of this country.
And Maui?
Tama.
Tama?
Tama.
Yeah, I say that a lot because I agree with you a lot. I think na if there's anything that I learned from EDSA, it's that a lot of the realities that they experience, it's still happening right now. We may not see it in plain sight, but I think that this conversation is a testament na we have so much reason to continue to fight. Like what Hans says, it is our responsibility to ensure the future that we are equally deserving of, Jud. So bilang kabataan, syempre since part of the youth, ayun, responsibilidad natin to be able to speak up, to show up. Kasi right now, we are at like Marcos, we are in a kanang era of another Marcos regime. Sorry, it took so long for me to say that. We are at an era of another Marcos regime. We just finished kanang we're still bumabangon pa tayo sa floods, sa earthquakes, sa corruption na issues. Students right now are facing inaccessible education. We have so many reasons to be able to stand and to be able to fight. So ayun, why not?
So I think going back to history by then, correct me if I'm wrong, what we're trying to say here is it's not just enough now for us to study history
Oo, tama.
and we should go beyond its academic sense. No, the question
Yes.
actually is what should we learn from
Yes.
history? In this context,
Yes.
what should we learn from EDSA? So looks like there's going to be a parts 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 because just like the first, I'm enjoying so much this conversation. And thank you very
We are
much
too.
for your willingness not to engage in another thoughtful conversation. I think I'll use your jargon, thoughtful discourse. So today we did not attempt to write history. We simply ask how a new generation understands it. Because history does not end with one generation. It is carried forward by the next.
That's true.
I am DJ Moises. This has been Beyond the Headlines. Have a good afternoon.